And now, here's JT the Brick.
Out of the gate, JT here on a Monday, fresh off practice at the Intermountain Health Performance Center with Clay Baker. As we begin a new week, it's Mendoza Monday. Brought to you by the DeCastro Law Group. If you get injured in an accident, two brothers, Alex and Orlando, Brothers Win. BrothersWin.com. Brothers Win, proud partner of Mendoza Monday, as they give us the faith to get behind Fernando. And man, there's been a lot of Fernando talk as of late. Fernando got work with the ones over the weekend. You would think he won the Super Bowl with that news. Everybody excited about that. Whatever gets you going, man, because I'm starting to realize this Fernando Mendoza thing is so good. People are just looking for any type of nugget to get them going. They want to see him with the ones. They want to see him throw a touchdown. They want to see him do this or that. Whatever rocks your boat, I am good with. Because I'm not here to fight that, man. If you want to get all your Fernando talk in every Monday morning, afternoon, and night, we'll help you do it. But, again, I work for the Raiders. I got hired initially during the Al Davis when he was alive years. And we talk Super Bowls and championships, not working out with the ones for one day. There's a lot of people that need to remember what the Raiders are about. They're about winning championships. And, hey, maybe showing up and working out with the ones at practice instead of Kirk Cousins, who was benched for the day with Maxx because of their scuffle. Maybe that is big news. But I've been to a lot of practices before with some really good players, and there's been a lot more pushing and shoving than you've seen from Cousins and Maxx. I can tell you that. And that happens all around the league. So if you want to make a big deal out of it, make a big deal out of it, because I don't know what a big deal is with you. I just know we had the worst record in football. We got the number one pick overall. Mostly the number one pick overall plays and starts the season. That doesn't look like it'll be the case here. So there is a lot of confusion among the fan base on what's a big story, what's not, what's important, what's really important. What's really important is winning Super Bowls and playoff games. Practice is important here because we have a brand new regime. And I believe that Clint Kubiak, by sending a message to Matt Crosby and Kirk Cousins, did the right thing. Like, we're going to do this differently here. We're doing this thing completely different. There's no frills, as someone told me. No frills. It's all ball. And if you act the right way, great. If you don't, you might get benched. You might not practice. You might sit out a portion of practice. That's what we're doing under Clint Kubiak. It's all business. All business. And Kirk Cousins today was very loud and very spirited. He was pretty intense. When he threw a good pass, he let everybody know. That he was ready to play. You know that? You like that thing? You like that? That was there today. He's pumped up. He wanted to come back after being very lightly reprimanded for going at it with Maxx a bit. And I don't think they were going at it, just a little pushing and shoving, that he was back to practice and ready to compete. And so was Maxx. I thought Darian Porter looked good. I thought Colt Miller looked good. Everybody's just trying to tweet and tell everybody who looks good. Everybody looks pretty good. We've been saying that throughout camp. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's looking pretty good. So it just depends on what you need to fuel your machine. And I'm live on YouTube, and there's not enough people here. So I blank and moan on Monday when I'm ready and you're not. I was ready 6 minutes ago. I blank and moan about that more than ever. It's not because I'm older, and it's not because I'm a curmudgeon. I just want to do a great radio show every day, and I don't want to wait for people. I want the Raider Nation to be ready to go at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. We got a lot of Raider fans back east, from New Jersey to Florida to New York, everywhere up in Massachusetts. We need you here at 3 o'clock, ready to roll. The show that's been on the longest. Get ready. And it was a big week. So we have the indoor practice tomorrow at Allegiant Stadium, which will be nice because they get to simulate. They get to simulate as much as they can from the locker room, coming out, practicing the right way, that's what this has been about, practicing the right way. And then the game is on Thursday, and I've been in deep preparation on doing the play-by-play for that game. Excited about that opportunity. More and more that I do this, the more and more we'll tell stories. You know, if it's a handoff up the middle for Arizona, okay, I'll tell you it was a handoff up the middle. But I want to hear from Matt Millen and Eric Allen and what they think of the team and where they think the direction of the team is going. So that'll be Thursday. Busy night, busy couple of nights here. It's going to be a busy week here as we get rolling. Mike Florio joins us at the top of next hour. There's going to be a big-time interview because Mike Florio, as I've said, is one of the most courageous journalist broadcasters out there, and he's on the biggest TV show you can be on, Sunday Night Football. And I'm going to ask him about Kyle Shanahan's car accident, what's the holdup with the Diana Russini investigation, all the things that he feels comfortable talking about, which most people don't. Most people, for whatever reason, don't want to cover certain stories. Those will be a couple of stories that I think are pretty important. He's also connected through Minnesota over his years as a fan, what's going on with Kyler Murray, J.J. McCarthy, all that happening, and just some of the other news around the NFL. Some of the other news around the NFL, it could be anything. Could be from Laramie Tunsil's injury with the Washington Commanders. There are some injuries that are starting to mount now, and the Raiders would like to avoid that. I think it's really important that they do avoid that along the way. So I was thinking about the show because I was on yesterday, and when I was on yesterday, we found out the news that Don Nelson passed away, which was a really big deal. So Don Nelson passed away, and I wasn't shocked because I know people that know Don Nelson well in Maui. He's like the mayor of Maui. He's got the greatest poker game in the world, right? Like he's got Owen Wilson, Willie Nelson, Alice Cooper stops by, Sammy Hagar, Shep Gordon, if you know who Shep is, a music promoter pioneer, and Don Nelson around Maui. If like you can get invited to Don Nelson's house, you definitely got an invitation because there were some cool people there. And a lot of the people there love the stickiest of the ickiest, the greenest of the green, the kindest of the kind. And they like to have a Maui good time with Don Nelson. Don Nelson was a hell of a coach. Remember, he won 5 championships as a Celtic. Wow. 5 championships. That's as many as Kobe's won. That's one more than LeBron at 4. One less than Jordan. He was a really, really, really good coach. A multiple coach of the year. So for Don Nelson, he had a big impact on a lot of people. And when he had a big impact on a lot of people, I think he deserves a day on the radio. I think fans should be tweeting in. I think fans should be calling in on Don Nelson and the impact that Nelly might have had and what you thought was the key to Don Nelson's success. Maybe you were going to some of those games back in the day and you know the history of Don Nelson. He deserves that. And Nelly, rest in peace, because the people that I know closely and from a distance had great things to say about him. Just amazing things to say about his impact as a player and a coach. Remember, a lot of guys never coached. They just played, and they've had nice careers. It's really interesting to have a great career in 2 categories, right? As a coach and a player, or as an administrator, a GM. Like Jerry West, maybe the most accomplished of all time as a player, also as a general manager, everything that he was able to do. It's hard to do that. Not many people can do it. So Don Nelson, may he rest in peace. All right, back to the Raiders for a minute with everything that's happening with the Raiders. I have the unofficial depth chart in front of me, and other people do too. And I don't think there's any big surprises with the Raiders on who's going to play. I don't think there are. I think what's changed for me compared to last year is there's just better players. There's better players you don't have to worry about. You don't have to worry about Nakobe Dean, Kwity Paye. You know, you don't have to worry about some of these guys because they can just play. They've played in the league. Tyler Linderbaum, really good players. So if you look at all those players and you add them up, it's much better than last year. Last year was really difficult because a lot of the players weren't on the same page with the coaches. Some of the coaches weren't on the same page with each other. We didn't know that until late in the season or to the end of the year. We had ideas, but it's pretty evident the problems that they had along the way. And now it seems like everything is really, really cool. You're going to hear from Mike Sullivan a little bit later on in the show and what he had to say from the quarterback's perspective. There's some other conversations that you're going to hear today, and it seems like it's just ball. Everybody's okay. Everybody believes in the teaching, and everybody believes in the message. And the message is show up on time, be ready to play. I was with Lincoln Kennedy for most of practice today. The great Lincoln Kennedy's in town. And I was telling Lincoln, I'm just amazed at how when everything ends, a drill ends or the practice initially starts, they're lined up to get an extra play in. That's how meticulous this coach is. He has got it charted to the second, not the minute, to the second. I mean, they got to be ready to go. I was watching the tight ends work out in front of me, and the attention to detail was amazing. I put out a video on X at JT the Brick. I mean, they're running through the coaches who have boxing gloves on trying to punch out the ball. They're doing some drills where they're pushing sleds lower to the ground. I mean, their cardio was being pushed today. And when you see Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers together, and they're the first two to line up, and then the other ones, Ian Thomas, the other tight ends that line up behind him, they looked apart. This is a really good tight end room. And I was talking again to other people about this today. This tight end group is a tight end group that is going to be called on to do a lot. They're going to be called on to pass protect, run block, go in motion, line up in the slot, line up wide. There's going to be a lot more demands on these tight ends than we saw in the past, which is kind of mind-blowing because Josh McDaniels and Chip Kelly were really big offensive geniuses in their categories. Chip Kelly was not a great head coach. Josh McDaniels was not a great head coach. But they were pretty damn good when it came to running a practice on offense. Two of the better ones to do it. And it didn't work. Now you're seeing Clint Kubiak come in with a really good reputation of running practices efficiently. I think you're seeing that with the tight ends. There are still some whispers and hushed tones with the media on the sideline about Jackson Powers Johnson. Is he competing? Is he going to compete? Caleb versus him. I've covered this story the same way. Either Jackson Powers Johnson is going to make it or he's not because he earns his opportunity to play. It seems like he's got to prove that he's ready to play more so than anybody I see. There's more speculation about him than anybody else. So I think he's using camp to get in shape. I think he's using camp to understand the system. I think he's using camp to understand he's next to Tyler Linderbaum, who's a really good player. And I think he has all the intentions of starting and playing on this team. But Clay Baker, you would know about this on your morning show, The Morning Tailgate. Fans want to know about every snap with Jackson Powers Johnson. And believe me, they don't want to know about that with most of the other players. It's either Fernando, how does he look? Or how's Jackson Powers Johnson doing today? And it never ends.
Have you ever seen a fan base more excited about a guard and his progression through the organization? Like he's made such an impression as one of us, and everyone wants to fight for Jackson Powers Johnson. But he himself has been very forthright of saying, like, I'm relieved that there are fresh eyes looking at me and realize my potential. But he also knows that there's an urgency in the building, and that no one's going to feel too bad if the train leaves you at the station.
Yeah, someone said it to me today about this whole Jackson Powers Johnson competition, that, look, this is his third regime that for whatever reason wants him to prove something and compete. I didn't think coming out of Oregon with his decorations and what he was able to do that he would have to prove it this much into his third year. If he has to do it, put on your big boy pants, all of us, and let him do it. He can handle it. I've talked to his parents about it. I've talked to him about it when I interviewed him in the past. He can handle this. And it's competition. We called it Competition Pete. Now it's competition under Clint Kubiak. Same thing. Everybody competing. Everybody running hard to the ball. Everyone not jogging. Everybody ready to play. And I like that. So I think the practices have been very efficient. But I think what we saw overall, when we saw the little dust-up between Kirk Cousins and Max Crosby, when we saw that dust-up, I think people were impressed that Clint Kubiak said, no, we don't do that here. We don't do that here. We will not be doing that here. And you guys are going to sit out for a majority of the next practice. Nothing wrong with that. No one has to get all worked up on that. No one has to make it out to be a big deal. No one has to get medals and juice boxes and awards. It's a football team. Some guys are going to get reprimanded some days for doing some things wrong. And always be a good teammate. That's something that Clint Kubiak says every day. Be a good teammate. Be a good teammate. And if you're able to do that, you have a good chance to play on this team. And I think there's some much better players on this team overall. All right, I wanted to mention about what's going on in Cleveland between Shedeur. There are rumors today. I even saw someone say, could he make the roster? Might he get cut? Deshaun Watson's a better quarterback than Shedeur. Deshaun Watson had some personal transgressions with some masseuses back in Houston, got paid a lot of money that he never should have got guaranteed, paid the price of it, and now he's back to play football again after he's been injured, he's made mistakes, and his reputation is gone. No one respects Deshaun Watson anymore in the league. When he came into the league, he was one of the most gifted athletes we've seen. He was a combination of Warren Moon and Steve McNair when he came into the league. And for whatever reason, the owner gave him $240 million or so guaranteed, and he never had to really work for it afterwards. I like Shedeur a little bit better, but I think Deshaun Watson's a better player when healthy. I really do think he's a better player. The Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. A year ago, I was there for Eric Allen. Eric Allen, a year ago. Time flies. That was an interesting induction. I believe Drew Brees gave a Mount Rushmore speech. Drew Brees gave one of the greatest speeches in the history of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It was so outstanding, I watched it twice. It was incredible. And Drew Brees, when he came into broadcasting, got a lot of criticism. It didn't work out his first time around. Man, did he nail that speech in Canton, Ohio. A little bit of help from the teleprompter. It was emotional. It was a great story. You know, I think the greatest story in the NFL is the story of Jim Plunkett, right? Jim Plunkett coming in, drafted number 1, getting beat up badly, bouncing around to the 49ers, going to the Raiders, having to sit on the sidelines until Al Davis needed him and winning 2 Super Bowls and a Super Bowl MVP was one of the greatest football stories of all time. The Drew Brees story might be bigger or just as good because Drew Brees got hurt in San Diego. His career was in jeopardy. Miami took a look at him with Nick Saban. He could have been a Dolphin for life, could have changed the arc of the Dolphins organization. He went to New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina, help within the community, threw for 80,000 yards, over 500 touchdowns when he retired, number 1 in both categories, and is a world champion. That speech was great. I didn't like Adam Vinatieri's speech. I thought it was a little bit too much comedian. He made fun of Peyton Manning's forehead. He made fun of Bill Belichick's girlfriend. He made fun of Pat McAfee holding his balls more than his wife. I mean, I thought that was a little too much for Adam Vinatieri. It looked like he was doing 10 minutes or 15 minutes at the Akron Chuckle Hut. He was looking to get laughs. I didn't think that was a great speech at all. Larry Fitzgerald was outstanding. And then the emotion of Roger Craig. And I'm sure Mark Davis is going to identify him in the concourse because he played for the Raiders. He was mostly a 49er, but he played for the Raiders. Once a Raider, always a Raider. Now we know about his vascular dementia that a couple of people were aware of. People were aware of that storyline. And it's a big story that Roger Craig had to have a video speech instead of being a guy that could get up there and just talk. So a lot of people had a good time who were there. Luke Kuechly got in. If you're a fan of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, let us know. 702-365-9200. All right, if you're listening to the show, we always say you can watch the show on YouTube. You can hear me. If you want to listen and watch, you can open up the Raiders mobile app. We're working out some of the kinks here. We're getting really close with the audio sync. For whatever reason, it's hard to sync the audio here. So we're trying to do that. So if you want to watch the show, go to YouTube. If you want to listen, you got about 15 ways to listen. Chris in West Oakland starts us off on the flagship. Thanks for calling, Chris. What's happening?
Hey, JT. I wanted to talk about Don Nelson a little bit today, pay tribute to one of the greatest coaches of all time. But a couple of quick points before that. Number one, first preseason game Thursday. You know me. I hate preseason football. Every year it's the same thing. Every team across the country, hey, we're better, we're going to do this and that. It's always the same thing. I don't get interested in football until week 1 for the most part. However, it's a little different this year. I like most Raider fans. I'm really curious to see how Fernando Mendoza looks, even in a preseason games coming out of the gate. As I've said repeatedly, if things are anywhere near equal with him and Cousins and you think he's ready to play, I'm a big-time advocate for rookies starting in 2026. It's not 40 years ago where these guys sit around with a clipboard and learn, but we'll see how that plays out. But for the first time in a long time, I'm actually looking forward to watching part of a preseason game. A real quick thing about Drew Brees. You remember this. Yeah, he could have been a Dolphin, but think about this, JT. How close were we to having – remember when the Chargers cut Drew Brees after they drafted Phillip Rivers in the injury? Drew Brees' agent's very first call was to Al Davis. Al Davis didn't trust the arm, the injury, didn't think he could throw the ball deep. That was also the same year that Sean Payton accepted the Raiders' job. Then at the last minute on the tarmac in Alameda, got talked into by Jerry Jones going back to Dallas. How different could the Raiders have been the last decade and a half if we could have had Drew Brees and Sean Payton together? But wishful thinking, we'll never know. But the real reason I called Don Nelson, look, this guy's kind of gotten lost over the years. What a phenomenal, yes, player, but coach. Before Greg Popovich broke his record, he was the all-time winningest coach. This guy's the godfather of small ball. What we see in the NBA now, and I don't mean the jacking up threes and lack of post play. I'm talking about legitimate small ball that used to run up and down, the run TMC years. It's a shame he never won a title. He never really had a team good enough to win a title, but he had some great teams. Go back to Milwaukee in the 80s. How good they were, but they always ran up against the Celtics or the Sixers. They had plenty of years where they beat one of those teams in the playoffs, just couldn't find a way to beat two of those. The Warriors, as exciting as they were, never really had a team good enough to win the playoffs, but this guy still found a way to pull upsets in the playoffs and stack up win after win, upsets in series. Also, the Warrior fans don't realize, he was the head coach when Steph Curry was a rookie, and while he didn't make the ultimate decision behind the scenes, he's a big reason the Warriors drafted Steph Curry when there was a lot of skepticism coming out of Davidson. So while he wasn't a part of the organization years afterwards, we might not have Steph Curry if it wasn't for Don Nelson. Again, like I said, this guy was an innovator, and from everything I've heard, I never had a chance to meet the man. I have friends that did. Said he was one of the coolest, most laid-back dudes you could ever meet. So the NBA lost one of its giants in the coaching industry today. The only good thing I'll say when a person like this dies over the years, sometimes they get remembered. The highlights, I've seen some things on SportsCenter. I've seen some things on social media about remembering how great Don Nelson was. So rest in peace, Mr. Nelson. You had a great, great run. And I'm going to say this, JT, every time a friend dies or a hero dies or a player dies, I always say I'm going to have a shot of Crown Royal. Well, in honor of the great Don Nelson, I'm not going to have a shot of Crown Royal tonight, JT. I'm going to have a beer and roll myself a fatty and go out on my porch and get high as a kite. Thank you, my friend. I'll talk to you later.
Well, just do what you want to do. Do your thing, Chris. Thanks for checking in. Don Nelson was a great coach and a legendary player because he won 5 championships. 5 championships, man. That is really special. I mean, that is nuts. 5 championships. Now, look, the Celtics had an unfair advantage back then. They did. They had a much better team. And I get into arguments with the Dodgers about this. When Jackie Robinson played against the Yankees beat them every year but one. 1955, the Dodgers won a championship. Ted Williams never played and advanced deep into the playoffs because Ted Williams didn't have wild cards. Didn't have the ability. The Yankees were so dominant. They were so dominant that we didn't get a chance to see at all Ted Williams, and we didn't get to see Ernie Banks in the National League play much in the postseason. Stan Musial and the Cardinals. But when it comes to basketball, the Celtics had a really big advantage. So Jerry West won 1 championship. Don Nelson won 5. Who was a better player? I think we all know. I think we all know who the better player was. Good phone call from Chris to start us off. 702-365-9200 on Nelly and what Don Nelson was able to do. And he had a big impact there. He had a lot of effect on, Ricky's in San Leandro. If everybody remembers Ricky's Sports Theater and Grill, the great sports bar up there, Ricky was really tight with Don Nelson. And Ricky had a back room that had a big tapestry on the wall of Don Nelson's legendary poker game. in Maui where you would see Owen Wilson and there would be Willie Nelson. And the list of people in that room were iconic. And everybody knew that that was the place to be. So a good friend of mine who still has a place in Maui was always trying to get invited to that poker game. And he never could. And some other people did. It was like a really tight group. And Alice Cooper and Shep Gordon. Shep Gordon discovered Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. He did. These guys were a tight-knit community in Maui. And everybody who lived in Maui would see Nelly and them out at dinners and restaurants. Mick Fleetwood would hang out with Don Nelson. I mean, he had a great life in Maui. It's cool to be known for, it's cool to be famous in Maui. You know, he's famous in Oakland, he was famous in Milwaukee, Boston, but he ended up being the mayor of Maui along the way, which was pretty cool. All right, Joe in Brooklyn. You're up next, Joe. What's happening? Thanks for calling today.
What's up, JT? Just a quick shout out to Coach Nelson. Rest in peace. Throw some prayers out to his family. Couple of things. You said JBJ using camp to get in shape. Like, I hope that's not the case. Like, this is year 3. Like, if he's not coming into camp and if he knows he has to prove himself to this another coaching staff and he's not in shape coming into this, that's a problem.
No, I don't want to insinuate because I'm not a trainer. I'm not a guy who's counting his reps. I mean, he's a big guy. He's a big guy. You look at the shape of Colt Miller. Colt Miller and Tyler Linderbaum look like they're at midseason form. I think JPJ, who's a young guy still, just came off his wedding, is working out in camp. I think he's working through it.
Tonka Hemingway is a second-year guy, and this guy hit the gym. Once last year ended, he hit the gym. There's plenty of veterans on that team where JPJ shouldn't be coming into camp out of shape or this or that. But yeah, whatever. He's a big guy. Being a big guy and being in shape is two different things. There's a reason why he's being looked at by a third coaching staff. Listen, I want him to succeed. I want him to be I was starting right guard. Maybe it's the whole center thing, him being out of position. He wants to play center, but I mean, obviously on this team, he's not going to. So he better he better use these preseason games to, put a lot of good film on tape. As far as Fernando, listen, we all want him to start. There's a plan in place. He's not going to start, unless unfortunately Kirk gets hurt, which we don't want to happen. Just let it play out. Let him right the ship. Let's get the O-line straight. We know Bowers is going to be good. We know Genty's going to be unbelievable. But week 8, week 9, listen, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to win many games. Hopefully we win double of what we win last year. We win 6 or 7 games. But I don't want this kid going in and getting killed and losing his confidence. And if it's not ready, I follow the stuff, him having some trouble, taking snaps on the center, with Meredith. And, let him – there's no rush to put him out there. Let the team improve. Let Kirk Cousins do his thing. Let him watch. Let him learn preseason practices. And, by week 8, 9, 10, there's no doubt this kid's going to be starting. It is what it is. He's younger. He's stronger. He's bigger than Kirk Cousins is. I mean, even Kirk says it at his pressers. I'm going to try and hold him off as long as I can. He knows it. He knows the writing's on the wall. No rush to put him in there week 1 and get this kid killed. Let him see a couple of games. Let him study a few game films with Kirk Cousins. Like I said, by week 8, week 9, let's get him in there. Well, thanks, JT.
Yeah, okay, appreciate the call. That is a good call. Week 8, week 9, get him in. We don't know if it'll be earlier. We don't know if it can't be much later than week 8 or 9 to get Cousins in. Okay, the only reason why you wouldn't have him in week 8 or 9 is that Cousins is 5-2. Anybody see Cousins coming out of the gate going 5-2? Anybody? Bueller, anyone? If you think Cousins is going to come out and go 5-2, then we're all good. Fernando's not playing. We have the biggest gauntlet schedule maybe in 20 years. Cousins is there to get us through the gauntlet of the Bills, the Rams, the Seahawks, the 49ers. And that could be a gauntlet where anybody could get hurt. Jaden Daniels missed 10 games last year, 10. And he's a great quarterback, great young quarterback in the league. So I'm not going to do a lot of when I interview the head coach, which I have the pleasure of doing. When I interview him the first week for week 1, I will ask him about Mendoza, and I will not ask it about him again if he's not the quarterback. I have too much respect for Kirk Cousins and Clint Kubiak to be sitting around going, when's Mendoza going to play? My theory is Kirk Cousins is a little bit irritated with that. How would you like to be Kirk Cousins and everybody's showing up? Everybody's showing up for camp days, national media, NFL Network, ESPN. They ask for Kirk Cousins. He sits down like a gentleman, and people are asking him, how long are you going to hold the seat for Cousins? For a Mendoza. Come on. There's a point where you got to have respect for the veteran quarterback. He's the starter. Now, camp's not over. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. But I think we're looking at the fact that he's going to start. And then we'll know. We'll have a pretty good understanding if he's going to keep the job after the New Orleans game. After the New Orleans game, I think anybody in Raider Nation will be able to say bench him or let him play more. All right, that's the monologue brought to you by Modelo, the fighting spirit of Modelo. All the great activations with Modelo that teams up with the Black Hole, and they're going to be ready for a massive opening party, the opening weekend party that will take place. None other than at the Palms. Too Short, Warren G. Get a cabana. Get in. Go to theblackhole.com. Sign up. Be a lifetime member. Get a deal coming in there. You will want to be at that party because there'll be ice-cold Modelos and you'll be hanging out with the Black Hole. Lines stay open, 702-365-9200. Mike Florio at the top of the hour. That will be good. Waiting on Chris Boombaka. We're going to play Mike Sullivan, who's supposedly Saturday's interview with him was so good. Clay said, let's play that, and we will. And Jamon McCoy spoke. So we got a lot to get to today as we're here on a Monday. Mendoza, Ashton Genty from NFL Network, JT, as we continue on. Brought to you by Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. They're ready for UNLV football. They're ready for Raider football. They're ready for you. I was on Sahara and Fort Apache, and I drove through a really nice drive-through. Got a couple of really good meals for my sons. They usually bring it for me. They're Caniacs, got the Cane combo box. Everything's great. Raising Cane's, they do so much in our community, and I love it. Raising Cane's, the sauce is made in-store every day. It's always fresh. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love. Open line 702-365-9200 as we open up the show. And, there's a lot of excitement about this whole hype. I was on Sunday yesterday on Mad Dog, Sirius XM 82, and we're getting calls on what happened with Cousins and Maxx. Not a lot. Maxx likes to tease people. Maxx likes to tease Patrick Mahomes and others. When he runs by and he beats his man, which he often does, he'll just go by someone and give him a little love tap, little touch. Well, Kirk Cousins doesn't want any of that. Kirk Cousins doesn't want that. So Kirk Cousins spoke up and wasn't happy about it. Okay, we're not talking about helmets off and punches and broken jaws and fights and pulling people off here. But, Kirk Cousins proved the point. I think Kirk Cousins understands what's at stake here. When he was in Minnesota, he never imagined being in Las Vegas playing for the Raiders. I don't think he loved Atlanta. Did it look like he loved Atlanta? Probably wanted to stay in Minnesota or go to a better team. Now he comes to the Raiders, and they have the worst record in football. And he was brought in to have an opportunity to start. And he's done enough to earn that opportunity. The question now will be, how long can he hold on to that opportunity? So today people are asking, will we see him? I won't know that until Wednesday before the game. And we keep all the conversations private in the production meeting with the head coach. But that's another big question that I'm hearing around Raider Nation. How much do you want to play Cousins in the preseason? I say play him. Let him play. We don't have to bubble wrap him. This isn't Joe Montana in year 4. This isn't coming off a Super Bowl. He's here to play. You want to get him in a rhythm? You want to see what he can do? Play him a series or two. Play him a half, all I care. Everybody wants to see Mendoza play. Aiden O'Connell deserves to play a little bit here. There'll be plenty of opportunity for the quarterbacks to play. But we'll know quickly if Cousins is going to get shut down in the preseason games, or Clint Kubiak wants to let him go and break a sweat and play. I personally have been doing this a long time. I'd let him play because I think by letting him play, it's only going to help you for the Miami game to get more rhythm. But they're not going to show you a lot because they don't want to show the rest of the league their playbook. So it's how much you want to let him go. A drive, you want to let him go 2 drives? Great. Again, whatever you think is right because we don't know what's happening until the coach tells us. And this coach is not going to tell us a lot. I'm sensing he's not going to tell us a lot because he's too busy drawing up the plays. So that's going to be a topic today and tomorrow. How much do you want to see Cousins play on Thursday night? Let's hear it from Raider fans. Clay, if you already brought this up, if you guys talked about it, you have a gut feeling on what you'd like to see for Cousins? A drive, maybe 2 drives, or you just say, the hell with it, let's let Fernando and Aiden play?
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to do a series with all the starters out there with the right offensive line and Cousins, okay. But other than that, I'd like to see Fernando take over a half of football. That's what I want to see definitely in week 1. Maybe even AOC, O'Connell to start the first half, and Mendoza start the second half, or vice versa. Maybe week 2 in Houston, you change it up a little bit, but I need to see 2 quarters of football for Mendoza.
You made an interesting point. That's a very important point. So what happens if you do take the time to get your offensive line, your starters out there? Don't you want to see your starting offensive line play with your starting quarterback?
Yes, you do. And how long do they play with Mendoza? But you run into a certain amount of time where you're like, the asset that you've put into Tyler Linderbaum, I don't want him out there too long.
Yeah, I don't want Colt Miller. I don't expect Colt Miller and Tyler Linderbaum to be out there a lot. If you want to rotate in all the depth of this offensive line, Trey Zune, Caleb Rogers, Grant, Jackson Powers Johnson, JPJ's got to play. DJ Glaze has got to play. DJ Glaze isn't Trent Williams, everybody. That guy he's got to play. He's got to be out there and play. There's no doubt about that. Also, Mendoza was on NFL Network. They were excited to have him on what he's been learning from the rest of the quarterbacks in that room.
Is there something tangible? Because we always say, like, oh, it's great to have the veteran presence. But is there something tangible that you've really picked up from Kirk that's helped you out here?
Well, I've picked up so much from Kirk, is not only his veteran experience, but also he's had experience with Coach Kubiak in Minnesota when he was balling with the Vikings. Yeah. And so when we're installing the offense, installing new plays, and he's like, hey, remember that from 2021 in Minnesota, from that game? And we're able to look back at the game and to be able to get his thoughts on the concept, not just what's on the card, but on how he sees it, on his progressions, his accelerators through it so he can get the ball out quick. And it's more listening than sometimes asking. If I go to him, hey Kirk, hey Kirk, hey Kirk, hey Kirk. Yeah. So it's gonna get tired of me. So it's a lot of eyes and ears open. And Coach Dinoco has been fantastic, as well as Coach Sullivan. And Aiden O'Connell started, a plethora of games as well in the NFL. So it's been an amazing experience to learn and listen from them.
It's really a good situation that the Raiders are in. They got a very solid quarterback room because of Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell could be long gone, starting in Arizona, starting for the Jets. If Aiden O'Connell was competing against Kyler Murray in Minnesota, I think that Aiden O'Connell could outplay Kyler Murray. Aiden O'Connell's a good player. He's in unique shape. He's fit. He's been through all these different coaches. He's taking it on the chin. He didn't expect this when he came in, all this turnover, and he's handled it great. Other thing I wanted to mention today, Michael Mayer and the footwork I saw him doing drills and what he does, he just looks like he's svelte, ready to go. I can't wait to see Michael Mayer play. Another guy that needs reps because he doesn't get any reps in the regular season. Little to no reps where the ball's coming to him. Let's see it, right? You don't want to show too much of Brock. Brock's the type of guy you can line up in the backfield. You can line him up in the slot. You can line him up wide. I don't think you want to give any of these teams tape of him doing that. I don't think you want to do that. You want to run him in motion. You want to do things that you might want to save for the regular season. But for Michael Mayer, put him out there and let him run some routes. Let him catch the ball. Dante Thornton Jr., I think it's a very important 2 weeks here. I think you're going to know everything about the future of Dante Thornton Jr. coming up in 2 weeks. How does he play against Arizona? How long do they let him play? And how does he do in the dual practice when he goes up against Houston? Does he look like he's ready? Or does he look like he's still a project? Because with Malik Benson here and what they have depth at the wide receiver position, this is one of the better depth, I think, camps that we've seen at wide receiver. Jalen Naylor, don't know what we're going to see. Jack Bash, I struggled to find Jack on the field. I struggle. I have to look for Jack Bash every practice, wonder where he is. He's big and strong. He's a good player, but he hasn't distinguished himself like Benson's been playing where you go, wow, look at all those flash plays. Let's get Jack the ball. And then I think it comes down to Ashton Genty. He took a lot of hits last year, Clay. He took a lot of hits last year. Do you want to see him taking hits in the preseason where he's going up the middle against Houston and just getting tattooed against Houston and getting thrown back there? Or do we have to play him? We, the Raider Nation, have to play him against Houston to go up against a superior defense to see if he can make a move and break a tackle or two.
He'll get all he needs in that joint practice against Houston. The preseason game, I want him to join Brock Bowers in the bubble wrap session so they can get the 3M bubble wrap all over them and make sure nothing else happens.
I am good with that. I have no problem with that. Remy Martin's got Mount Gay rum. It's fantastic. A lot of people are having their new rum and cokes with Mount Gay rum because it's crisp, it's light. The way they make it is fantastic. And you're going to see a lot of drinks being made with Mount Gay rum around town here. Silver and black rum. It's going to be fantastic. Mount Gay rum, part of the Remy Martin family. We're excited that they're back with us here. The oldest rum distillery on earth. Sponsors of some of the biggest sailing regattas since 1703. Neat or mixed, it's earned. Mount Gay rum as we open it up here. We'll wrap up the first hour. Coming up next, we have Mike Florio at the top of the hour. That will be a big interview. I'll play that tonight on my national show. That's what we do. Sometimes we take our better interviews, and we can't get those guys on at 10 o'clock at night. We get them on at noon or 1 Pacific. So that'll be a lot of fun. Mike Florio on some of the unique, weird stories going on in the NFL.
Nothing I hate in the car business more than
Back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me already and just been like, all right, so, in practice you can't do this. If you get, I have a whole, textbook full of rules that I got to follow or I'm going to get in trouble. But that's, it comes with it. I practice one way, and I know that, and I know I push the line, and sometimes I go over the line. But ultimately it's because, I want to be the greatest at what I do, and I want to push my teammates to be the greatest version of themselves. So.
Max Crosby on the way he practices hard. We're brought to you by Flowing Tide Pub and Grill. What a great new proud partner. And it's kind of a local secret back in the day, not anymore, with 13-plus locations statewide. So let me tell you about our relationship with Flowing Tide. We know some friends, some family who were involved with it. We met with Danny. We know how important it is for him to make connections with his customers, from gaming to food to the people go in there and they watch so much college football, pro football, and it's just fantastic. Local, family-owned, 13 locations statewide. Ride the Tide, Raider Nation. And I'm looking at their signature cocktails. Wow, the Tide Skinny Margarita, the Rip Tide, the Mai Tide, the Tide Rush, the Tide Water. It's all there. Happy hour 7 days a week. 7 hours of happy hours. This is incredible. $8 Happy Bites, $3 domestic drafts. How about $5 premium drafts, $6 super premium drafts, and the $5 Rip Tides. So go there, have a great experience there. Tell them we sent you. Was really excited to bringing them on board. Flowing Tide Pub and Grill, proud partner of our show. So we got Mike Florio coming up here in a little bit. We'll talk about the Kyle Shanahan car accident. Why? Because he's talking about it. What's taking so long with the Diana Russini investigation? Excuse me, what's taking so long? There's a quarterback competition in Minnesota? Is there a quarterback competition in Las Vegas? And some of the other big storylines that are popping up, Mike Florio will talk about, and the situation with Tony Romo. What's going on with Tony Romo is everybody seems to be moving on from him at CBS. I think Tony Romo's going to get out of this. I do. I just don't know if he'll have a job. If he had this same situation happen in Las Vegas, I know 2 or 3 global power attorneys who would have got him off like that. We've seen a lot of big DUIs out here that get thrown out. A lot of big ones you might be wink, wink familiar with. But what does it mean for Tony Romo if CBS wants to get out of that $18 million deal a year and the $72 million that are owed left to him on him? It's a big deal. All right, so we'll knock out that coming up on the other side. We'll also hear Mike Sullivan, what he had to say. Also the conversation with Jermon McCoy. Zeke Massis spoke today. He's having a really nice camp. Could he eventually start? Could he start opposite of Eric Stokes? Why not? Hour number 2 coming up next. JT live from Las Vegas. Welcome back, everybody. JT in Vegas. Thanks for joining us. Hour number 2. A lot to get to tonight. 3 hours tonight also on Sirius XM. Mad Dog Sports Radio. Always a pleasure to welcome in Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk, part of the largest, biggest television show in all of America. And Mike, good to go around the league with you. How you getting ready? New team there with Mike Tomlin, a couple of new additions. You got to be excited for this year.
Yeah, it really was a fun time last week. We were in Canton from Tuesday through Thursday and had a few different meetings and meals and time to hang around with Mike Tomlin. He's just awesome. The team is very streamlined this year. 5 from last year gone. Tomlin joins the team. We have a trailer that they're going to take around to all of the stadiums where we can watch all of the games on Sunday to replicate what we used to do in the studio. That was one of the big concerns about going on the road. You still need to be able to watch the games from 1 o'clock Eastern until 7 o'clock Eastern when the Football Night in America broadcast begins. So we're getting used to that. It's the first time ever that the whole show's been on the road since NBC got Sunday Night Football in 2006. So it's going to be a different kind of a year, but it's going to be fun.
Are you excited about that for your resources, your sources, getting out on the road and doing this? And again, whenever you have to leave your home or the home studio and change up a little bit of travel, how are you embracing that?
Well, they're letting me pick and choose which games I go to, and I've gone through and done a preliminary look at the schedule, and there were about half of them that I'll go to, and a little less than half I'll work out of my studio up above my garage. But once I got a taste of it last week and being around everyone and the energy and being at the game and being in the stadium, I'm going to take a second look at this now and see if I can squeeze a few more trips. It's going to be hard to do West Coast trips because it just screws me up on Monday if I have a lot of travel. So getting home from California, something like that, you know, I need to be plugged in and creating content for PFT. So that's the balance. But it really is fun being in the stadiums, getting around, seeing people, talking to people before the games, doing the show in that element. It's a lot of energy and it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot better than being in a studio, which can feel like a laboratory at times.
Absolutely. Mike Florio's our guest. A couple of legal stories with your legal background. Why is it taking so long for this Diana Russini investigation to end with ChatGPT and Claude and investigations and attorneys? I mean, what are we doing here? Could this have been cleaned up in a week, 2 weeks? Why so long to get a conclusion to what really happened? What's the story behind the story, Mike?
We don't know the story behind the story. All we can do is look at the facts and try to interpret what the explanations could be. June 7, that was the day there was a report from the New York Post that Steven Ginsburg, the executive editor at The Athletic, had told all staff at The Athletic that it would be a few more weeks, that they would be working on and finishing up the investigation. Well, it's been more than 2 months, and they still haven't done it. So they've either realized this thing is something that's requiring a lot more time than expected, or they're just dragging their feet and not planning to ultimately do anything, which would create some internal issues for them among the employees who are expecting, especially the New York Times employees. The Times and The Athletic are the same company. The Times owns The Athletic, and the Times reporters, many of them believe that the Athletics reporters are held to a lower standard, so they want to see something done. I think it's possible that there was a behind-the-scenes agreement between the Athletic and Russini that no one's going to say anything more about any of this and everyone's just going to move on. Of course, if that's the case, we won't know it because they're not going to come out and tell us that. So it's just odd, and that's the one big curveball that still remains, along with Russini going public and telling her story, which she could do if she wanted to the night before the regular season opener between the Patriots and the Seahawks, and that would be something in the punch bowl moment, that's for sure. So there's still a couple moves that could happen. We just don't know if they're going to happen at all.
Mike Florio's our guest, Pro Football Talk. The Kyle Shanahan accident wasn't a big deal until it became a big deal. There are people now investigating this or looking into investigating this in the Bay Area. Once he mentioned a Tesla, I got a Tesla. A lot of our listeners have a Tesla. Normally, it's the safest car ever. The only time it gets into an accident, if something else, some other car hits it, the phone drops, maybe autopilot went off. Thought he gave us a lot of information he didn't need to, and that poked a lot of people and got their ears up here. What should we look forward to hearing in that storyline?
The whole reason that this became an issue is because the 49ers, for whatever reason, decided to keep under wraps the fact that an accident had happened on July 11. It took, some 14 days, 11 days, something like that, before they finally went public and said that there was an accident. He had non-life-threatening injuries, and, he'd be available for training camp on a full and complete basis when he recovers from the injuries sufficiently. And that's what made people say, well, why are you hiding this? What's the purpose of hiding and concealing what happened for as long as you possibly could? And my guess is that they would have never told us if they didn't have to. They only had to because Kyle Shanahan wasn't there when training camp opened. So that is what caused people to say, well, why would they hide it? Did they just hide it because that's what they do? Or did they hide it because they're trying to actively hide something? And there's some inconsistencies in the stories that he's told so far. Not major, but enough that made people say, well, wait a minute, I thought the phone fell from your lap down into the space between the seat and the console in the middle. Now he says it went all the way to the back seat. He had to turn around, take his eyes off the road, and the autopilot feature either malfunctioned or he turned it off at that same moment. And it's just making people think that there's more to this, that they're never going to tell us. The accident report isn't going to be released. The 911 call isn't going to be released. And people just think that there's something out there that they don't want us to know based on the way the team has handled it. Not necessarily Shanahan, but the team itself, the way they've handled it has created suspicion, and people are poking around and asking questions.
Mike, there's a difference between a podcaster and a sports talk radio host like I am and a journalist. There's a lot of good journalists from the San Francisco Chronicle to newspapers up there, the San Jose Mercury News. They all have contacts. That's what's amazing, that the journalists aren't being called out for not knowing about this for so long. The journalists are supposed to be able to find that information and get it out to their readers and their audience. The radio hosts usually get that after the journalists uncover this.
That's been one of the strange parts of this. The fact that people knew, could have known, should have known, didn't try to get to the bottom of whatever it was that they had caught wind of. ESPN clearly worked in cooperation and coordination with the 49ers to hold this until the 49ers were ready to announce it. The journalists who cover the team, they were asleep at the switch. Their news organizations at least were initially. And then I just don't get the impression that any of them are asking the questions that need to be asked to try to get to the bottom. That just makes it weird, too. Now, I understand that those folks are concerned about their access, but at some point you got to be concerned about your audience, too.
Wrapping it up with Mike Florio. Mike, I'm in Vegas, and we have some of the best DUI attorneys in the world. Celebrities, actors, movie stars, musicians get DUIs. There's like 2 or 3 big names you're probably familiar with. And one phone call, and these get dropped to a lesser charge. And when I looked at Tony Romo in the video and doing the yoga poses and taking off the socks and getting him to another spot off the freeway, I said, some of the guys in this town would have had that thrown out in 10 minutes. So now we're talking about Romo's salary from CBS. They're already counting him out, talking about J.J. Watt coming in. I get this. I got to think that Tony Romo's fighting for his professional career and a lot of money. Do you expect a complete settlement here at one point or something more severe than that?
Well, a settlement is always possible in a situation like this. He is owed $72 million over the next 4 years. And I believe the moment that CBS put him on leave, the way they did it with the statement, one line, he's on leave until further notice, and then boom, J.J. Watt is elevated into his chair, that created the impression that they're done with him. And it all comes down to how they disengage. Will they try to invoke a morals clause that's in his contract as the basis for not paying him, arising from the DUI arrest? Will there be some big legal fight? Will there be a settlement? It just feels like at this point he's not going to be back. CBS Sports has its annual preseason preview press conference this week. He's going to loom over that. There's going to be questions asked of David Burson, the president of CBS, and maybe we'll get some answers. But it just feels like he's not going to be back. Right or wrong, it just feels like he's not going to be back.
Mike, last one on the way out. You talked about your time you spent in Canton. I cannot believe that Bill Belichick wasn't a part of that ceremony. We talked about it when the initial news came out. It should be all clear right now. There's going to be no more indication of Spygate or any personal issues back in the day. It should be clear sailing for Bill Belichick that would push back Tom Coughlin, Mike Shanahan, and other 2-win Super Bowl coaches to a 6-time Super Bowl championship coach. What'd you hear in Canton about the future of Belichick in the Hall?
Well, the board of directors that governs the Hall was supposed to have a meeting on Friday, and as far as I know, they did. I don't know whether or not at this point they actually made any changes. This convoluted process that has made it harder to get in. And as it relates to the people who aren't in the modern era player pool, you've got a coaching committee finalist, Belichick, a contributor committee finalist, it was Robert Kraft this year, 3 seniors committee finalists, L.C. Greenwood, Ken Anderson, and Roger Craig. All 5 are in the same bucket. The 50 voters have to pick 3 of the 5, and you got to get 40 votes to get in. Well, what should have happened is Belichick should have been the first name on all 50 ballots, and then they figure out the next 2 of the remaining 4. That's where the logic all falls apart. Whatever the explanation for why people didn't vote for Belichick, I reject that. He should have been in. It came down to him or Roger Craig. Craig's the one who emerged from that group, and all due respect to Roger Craig and what he accomplished between the 2, Bill Belichick's more worthy. So no one ever came out and said, now there was some chatter that it was some of the cheating stuff, but maybe make him wait a year. There's that kind of weird stuff that goes on. And as I always say, no amount of power is abused like hardly any at all. And you get some of these people on the voting committee that get pious and high and mighty, and they just want to make you wait. You're going to get in, but we're just going to make you wait. And that crap is ridiculous. You either deserve to be in or you don't. And they did it to Terrell Owens. They've done it to others. You deserve to be in or you don't, and he should have been in. And if he's not in this coming year, they should just dismantle the whole thing.
I would agree. Mike, good to catch up with you. Enjoy the rest of the preseason. Hope to catch up with you down the road. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
You got it. Mike Florio. Nice to get him on. Covered it all. Tony Romo, Diana Russini, Kyle Shanahan car accident. Those are 3 big stories. He's an attorney. You got his opinion on all that. So I think what's going to happen is Tony Romo is going to settle. He's not going to keep his job, but he's going to get most of the money, if not all of it, because that's a lot of money. You could retire 10 times over with $72 million. But that would be a slap in the face to Romo because he couldn't work again. Where would he go? Fox wouldn't hire him. NBC's not going to hire him. Tony Romo's not going to do SEC college football. And Tony Romo was out playing golf that day. He's trying to compete. He's trying to play on the senior tour. He's not joking around. He's not playing in golf tournaments with buddies there trying to raise money for some charity. He's doing that to try to play golf at the next level. And the Diana Russini story, which I kind of took the first 2 weeks off when the story broke, out of respect that she's a female, and I thought a lot of guys were making memes and being stupid, making fun of her, taking pictures of her and Vrabel and just using it for their own personal satisfaction. Then it started to wonder, what did she know? Who did she vote for? What did she try to do to help Vrabel get a job or get him back into the Patriots? I don't know. That investigation's gone on way too long. And there's a lot of people that work at The Athletic going, wait a second. Would I get this treatment? Would I get this treatment if I went down this road? And, finally on Belichick, I watched a lot of the Hall of Fame this weekend. And the fact that Bill Belichick has to wait another year. Tom Flores had to wait 20-something years. He ended up showing up to Canton in a wheelchair. And Coach Flores ended up standing up when he gave his speech, when he finally got inducted, but he got up from a wheelchair. Well, I'm not saying Bill Belichick's going to be in a wheelchair next year, but Tom Coughlin and Mike Shanahan aren't getting any younger, and they're making them wait. So I just think they need to do another super class and clean up some of the people that are obvious, because you can always debate a player. I also think Eli Manning should get in before Ben Roethlisberger. Eli's been waiting. It looks like he's going to have to wait longer. Ben Roethlisberger, Adrian Peterson, and Rob Gronkowski are first-time eligible. Adrian Peterson's done some weird stuff. I mean, he's lost a lot of money. Are people going to hold that against him and make Adrian Peterson wait another year? Probably will. It's the politics of the Hall of Fame, which is crazy. Thanks to Mike Florio. Always a good conversation to get him on. I get him on about 3 or 4 times a year, and it's always a really good conversation. Finley Volvo Cars of Las Vegas. Hey, listen, they do a lot of things. That Finley family, all the money that they've raised, family-owned in Las Vegas since 1961. Mike's got a lot of EV vehicles, a lot of leases. I'm in the portion of time with my 2 sons and my wife. Leases come up. You want to have a car, you've had it for a couple of years, you want to switch it out. I recommend everybody go to Finley Volvo Cars Las Vegas and check out the inventory that they have. You might want to do a lease with some money down. You might want to buy a vehicle, handcrafted, safe. It's all there at Finley Volvo Cars Las Vegas. I think probably the most gorgeous showroom in town and worth checking them out. Ask for Mike, and you know what Finley Automotive Group does. They are all over this town, 30-plus dealership locations across 6 western states. Still family-run. Cliff Finley, who had a chance to be a part of in the induction of the Southern Nevada Sports Hall of Fame. We love what that family has done for this town. All right, when we come back, a couple of conversations that we want to hear, and we'd like to hear from you. 1 or 2 calls a day is not what I'm accustomed to. Talk to more people than anyone in radio over the last 30 years. So I want to hear from you. 702-365-9200. Mike Sullivan, quarterback coach, had a really interesting conversation. And he's not going to do this every day. We'll play a portion of that coming up on the other side. And Jermon McCoy, everybody talks about his skill set and upside. When will we see him on the field more than less?
Hurts, he's looking left. Pressure, back, it's hit from behind. Crosby the sack. A coverage sack to say the least. He had time to throw as Crosby flies over to the Raiders sideline. His 10th sack of the year, and the Eagles are going to settle for a field goal opportunity.
That's Jason Horowitz on the call. JT back with you, brought to you by 8 Cigar Lounge. Been over there a lot lately. They're doing an unbelievable job with the Raiders alumni coming up. Founded by local entrepreneur, my friend Giuseppe Bravo. Great job they do there. Whenever you go in there, it's eloquent. You feel like you're part of the biggest events in town. It's evolved to even more of a traditional cigar bar into a luxury social salon. It's the place to go, date night. When it comes to the airification of the place, indoor, outdoor, fantastic. It's kind of like a place you go to when your friends come to Vegas and you want them to be at a spot that they're going to remember. 8 Cigar Lounge, proud partner of our show. So Mike Sullivan, the quarterback coach, He's a unique guy. He's got great energy. He's worked with so many other quarterbacks before, and with his relationship with Clint Kubiak, he's got one of the premier quarterback rooms in all of the NFL. He spoke to the media the other day.
A lot of action today. What stood out to you about him today? Fernando got a lot of action out there too.
Continues to improve, and the thing that I think we're very pleased about is from the spring to the start of camp, there were some parts of his game we wanted him to improve upon, and he has. As we've added different layers and dimensions, the crowd noise, the silent count, and so forth, he's not repeating mistakes, which is always a good thing. It's a process. It's a long process, and we're pleased with how he's developing.
Just how important is it to get him with the ones for whole practice like that?
Well, I think as much as he has opportunities that are going to put him in realistic situations, and it could be with the threes or the twos or the ones, and also along those same lines, the defensive players, because, the speed picks up a little bit. So I think it's important that he doesn't get too far ahead of himself, which a young man like that doesn't do that. I mean, he is locked in on the process and just trying to improve. And so those are the things that we're looking for to help him take those next steps.
How have you seen that quarterback room complement each other and learn from each other?
It's a great blend, and it's a joy coming to work every day, because all three of those guys, all four of them, I should say, no disrespect, Jacob Clark, our undrafted free agent, he's been right in Fernando's hip pocket, helping him study, staying with him afterwards to walk through his plays, walk through the scripts. He's a tremendous young man. And, of course, you've got Kirk, who is a pro, who's been there, done that, but still has an open mind, a white belt mentality, so to speak, where he's willing to do whatever's necessary to improve and grow. And Aiden is just, I can't say enough good things about him. He's so smart. And the thing, this is, I think one of the quarterbacks may have said this, they're not competing against each other, they're competing with each other. And there's definitely a lot of collaboration, a lot of good discussion. Good QB room is a noisy QB room, because they're all, giving each other feedback and bringing up points to discuss, and we certainly have that in that room.
You just brought up Jacob. How beneficial can it be to pair a rookie like Fernando with another rookie like Jacob as they're kind of coming along?
I think it's been a great benefit to us, and it's a credit to Jacob, to his attitude, to his intelligence. He's a very bright young man, and the fact that he is of a mindset that he's going to soak up as much as he can, improve as much as he can. His reps, of course, are limited, but he works the individual drills, and we've seen improvement with regard to that. But his approach, his attitude, he's there to be the best that he can be, but he's also been very, very helpful to Fernando in more ways than one. Before practice, after practice, at night, at the hotel probably. I mean, he's been a great asset, a great benefit for us.
When you're watching a young quarterback play with the ones, what are you evaluating beyond the ball being completed?
I think probably the first thing you'd want to look at is the poise. Is there anything that seems to rattle him? If something goes bad, does it start to kind of spiral into more bad things? Does he have a good command, a sense of confidence about what he's going through, and really just trusting his training and not trying to put extra pressure on himself? It's the same concepts, it's the same plays, just a little bit faster guys he's going against. And so that's probably the main thing, is to see what type of approach from a mental standpoint, because if mentally he starts to get flustered or gets panicked or frustrated, that's going to reflect in his physical play. And so that's probably the main thing that we'd want to take a look at.
The confidence we saw Fernando throwing into some tight windows. For a young guy, I think sometimes they'll come off of those. What have you seen from him in that area? Like the confidence and trust in his arm to get it there?
Yeah, well, so much of what we do offensively is timing oriented. And there are plays that we're going to want to hit as soon as that back foot hits the ground, call it a plant throw. Other times there's the progression to go a first hitch, second hitch, and so forth. And it's just very critical that is coordinated, right? We're not, hence the hat, listening to your feet. You don't want to be bouncing and all of a sudden, you're still on your first read. And so oftentimes the quarterback, the guy that's back there squeezing the trigger, has got to make that decision. And oftentimes if you think, you're too late. And so it's important, I think, for all the quarterbacks to use these opportunities, these great practices that we have to test themselves and push themselves. Because if you don't develop that skill, if you don't train it out here, there's no way it's going to show up on Sunday.
In what area have you seen the most improvement in Fernando since getting here?
If I had to pick one area, I think it's just an overall comfort and confidence and command in the operation. You know, you go back to, in general, in college, there not very many teams huddle. There's not a lot of cadence operation at the line of scrimmage. A lot of things are kind of called into the headset. And, you know, the visual and verbal communication that he's made, certainly the ability to play under center and take snaps from under center, those are things that we've seen him improve upon, and he's going to continue to work on, and we want to still get him to be even better, but real pleased with where that's at right now.
How important is it to have Fernando and Malik, both rookies coming in, develop their chemistry together as they're both learning the offense?
Yeah, you know, Malik has done a great job. We're happy he's here. I know Fernando's happy he's here. And I think when you have all of the young guys that come together, you know, there's a benefit, obviously, to that, you know, just to learning the subtle nuances and the body language. And if that can help the anticipation, then we're able to get that ball out and have that timing that we talked about, which everybody likes, right? Certainly the O-line coach likes, and you know, not taking sacks or making bad decisions. So that's definitely a benefit for us.
What are you going to look to for Fernando in the preseason once that starts rolling next week?
You know, I think it'd be just seeing if he can continue to build and grow and develop, and, you know, some of the issues that we identify in the various parts of his game that he's needed to improve upon, can he take that next step? Can he continue to advance and play with that level of confidence and conviction and play fast and execute? And so it's really just taking, you know, you want to have a progression. You know, certainly we'd hope however the outcome transpires on Thursday, it ends up being better the next time, and then the next time. And it's a never-ending process. You know, we're constantly going to be trying to reach perfection. Even though it might not be attainable, we're going to do our damnedest to try to reach it.
We've seen days where he's up and down, but he finishes practice really well. What does that tell you how he handles adversity? Well,
you know, we talk a lot about, when we have our 2-minute drills, how critical those are. And, you know, that's a common sense, you know, Captain Obvious statement. But, you know, a quarterback or any player for that matter may have had some mistakes along the way, and yet they've done enough to be in a 2-minute drive to win the game. It could have been something where a quarterback or a player was playing tremendous football and they still have to produce at the end of the game. That's really, you know, not all plays, not all situations are weighted the same. And certainly, you know, in your 2-minute drives, you're going to have red zone, you're going to have third down. It's one-dimensional. You're battling the clock. There's all the pressure. Plus, you had the fatigue component. It can be kind of warm out here, and so they're feeling it. And, you know, it really puts that pressure on to perform. And we talk a lot about wanting to make sure we're at our best when our best is needed, and that's the time. So that regardless of what's happened prior to that 2-minute drill, good or bad, it's irrelevant. We've got to perform and train that way and get that callous and get that hardness so that when called upon on a Sunday, we're able to perform.
All right, that's a bit of Mike Sullivan. He's talking about bringing Fernando along. That's what this has been about, bringing Fernando Mendoza along in a system that he'll be very comfortable with when the time is right. Okay, a lot of first-time number one quarterbacks overall are in the system in training camp, and they're getting ready to start. They're going to start. So if they're not coming along or not, this is a unique situation. This is a number one pick overall who's most likely not going to start. So they're bringing him along with 2 reps, working with the 2s, working sometimes with other players who are not going to be the starters there to try to bring him along properly. All right, whatever they think they're going to do. He knows so much more about football than most people that you got to believe that Kubiak and Mike Sullivan and all the coaches that are there, I have the list and the depth of all the offensive coaches here in front of me, that they're sitting down and they're making the right decision for Fernando. On top of that, they're being told what Tom Brady thinks, and Tom Brady's letting them know. Chinoco knows what Tom Brady wants to do. So if Tom Brady thinks it's best for Fernando to come along a little bit slower than other first-pick overall quarterbacks, you can't argue that. You can have a differing opinion, but you can't argue it. How could you argue what Tom Brady and Clint Kubiak and Mike Sullivan and Andrew Chinoco were thinking? How can you argue that? They're doing it as a team with about 5 or 6 opinions. Oh, and John Spytek. If John Spytek didn't agree, I'm sure he'd be speaking up. And he agrees. So with all that happening, that's what it's about. Everybody being on the same page, agreeing. Open lines for you, 702-365-9200. Ross Rick's in Huntington Beach, who has some of the best golf tournaments in all of Raider Nation, and I think he's got another one coming up. What's happening, my friend?
JT, living the dream, brother. Always good to hear your voice.
Thank you for calling. Always good to appreciate our friendship and your golf game. I broke 80. I shot 77, played my own ball, didn't hit one out of bounds, so I'm feeling good coming into the tournament. Give us the details.
Dude, we're September 13th. We're over at Legacy. We've got a bunch of guys coming out there. It's going to be a blast. We have, breakfast included. We're doing prizes, giveaways. We're also, there's some Raider jerseys getting given away and all kinds of good stuff.
So this is September 13th. If I got that right here, I'm looking at the calendar. That is
I'm sorry, the 12th.
The 12th,
yes,
Saturday. The 12th.
Yeah,
that is a Saturday before the game on Sunday. Fantastic. And Legacy's real easy for everybody to see. And, you've been building this for a long time. You bring alumni in, you bring regulars in, and you're always looking to bring new people in, which I appreciate. There's a lot of Raider fans that want to golf, and they want to golf and compete, and they want to have a good time with their buddies.
Absolutely. There's nothing like, it's like a tailgate on the course. Kind of brings back the vibe from Oakland. We started this back in Oakland in 2019 just to preserve Raider tradition and keep the, camaraderie moving forward.
I love the tradition that you keep. You're old school. You want to get going with that. Is there a website? Can we send anybody anywhere if they want to sign up and be a part of it?
Absolutely. www.RaiderNationGolfClub.com. We've only got about 22 spots left. We're almost sold out, so definitely be a good time to hop on and join so you can be with us out there. RaiderNationGolfClub.com. Beautiful. What do you think about the team? I know you consume a lot of content. You feeling better than last year at this time? There's no way to not feel better. I really, really like the moves we've made on defense. We've strengthened a lot of positions there. Linebacker, core, everything. We're just solid at every spot there. And I feel like our offensive line has also made leaps and bounds as far as where we're going to be, getting the right guys in the right positions. A lot of that is coaching as well. But, yeah, I'm encouraged. I know, it's a process. We didn't win a lot of games last year, so doubling that, getting to 7 games would be huge. I'd like us to sniff the playoffs, but realistically I'm thinking it might be next year we win the division, but this year we can scare some people for sure.
That would be a nice thing. I'll plug it again. Come on one more time, and I'm looking forward to getting out there. It should be fun.
Awesome. Thank you, JT.
Take care, buddy. Look at that. RaiderNationGolfClub.com. Go play some golf with some Raider fans. It's the right thing to do. Go have a good time. Often when I play in those tournaments, there's Mike Haynes. There'll be someone out there. There'll be another alumni, Barry Sims. Josh Taves, someone out there having a great time with. It's a good time to get together with Raider fans. Love to golf, and this is probably the only month out of the year where I won't golf. And I will golf in September. I try to avoid it in August, man. People say go out at 6 in the morning. Getting up and golfing at 6 in the morning is not easy. And I've said this again, I'm a late night guy. If you've been listening to me for 30 minutes or 30 years, I'm a late night guy. And getting out to practice, which I think I've been pretty good at getting out there, man. Those 7:30 practices, Clay, are no joke. And I think they're going to look back on this in years to come and say, did that work or not? And I think they're hoping it works because they're so efficient that early in the morning getting their work in before they get off the field that they can accomplish so much more. But not every person is great at 7:15 in the morning, snapping out of anything. I'm not talking about having a cocktail or a drink, but just kids waking up in school. You're getting ready with your playbook. That is not easy to do.
It's not. In fact, what about, not everyone is an early riser.
Yeah.
And even Kubiak himself was like, it's early, but I wish it could be a little bit earlier so we could get a pre-practice meeting going. So it's like, even he wants to see people showing up at 6:45 if he can get there.
Getting a football team together that early is a good thing if you can pull it off. And it seems like the guys are really doing well because my biggest takeaway, and I'm going to talk about this on the broadcast coming up here on Thursday night, is I've never seen, and I've been to all of them, I've never seen a practice start on time this quickly. As soon as the horn is blown, they are in the middle of running a play, a handoff, a throw, whatever it is. That's efficient. There is no walking up to the line and breaking the huddle. They're on the line of scrimmage, ready to go. That's tremendous. That's all ball. That's the way you coach. If we're going to be out here, we're not wasting anybody's time. We're not wasting anybody's time. Here's Mark in Michigan on the flagship of the Raiders. Thanks for calling, Mark. Appreciate you.
Yeah, JT, thank you for taking the call.
Thank you.
Hey, two things if I could, sir. First of all, you and I are the same age. I've been a Raider fan since '74, and obviously got to live through some of their what's really what I'm seeing now, and I guess I'd like your confirmation because you're closer to it than I am, but everything this year makes sense. From the assembly of the coaching staff to the free agents move to the draft, everything right now, where in the past handful of years, everything seemed instinctively felt disjointed, and I just feel so optimistic about the direction and the foundation that's being laid for this organization. I don't know what your perspective on that.
Yeah, but don't hang up. I'll just tell you, I sat here last year and I was really excited about Pete Carroll and friends Greg Olson and other people that I knew coaching this team, and Chip Kelly impressed the hell out of me in our first production meeting. I mean, really impressive. We did not think it was going to be this badly. Later in the year, people had information before other people. But going into last year, a lot of people were optimistic. This is different now because we know there's no real drama with coaches or communication or trying to get other people to compete more than others. This seems to be really stern and really on time and all ball with no screwing around. And I don't know anybody who's seen it that doesn't say it's close to the right way. They love this new style of coaching.
Oh, fantastic! No, it just feels right, and I mean, none of us, I think, are expecting Super Bowl or possibly even playoffs this year. Yeah. But the foundation, I can see us in 2 to 3 years really, really being not only a competitive team, but a team that's set up for top tier performance for sustained performance.
Yeah, thanks for the call from Michigan. Appreciate you very much. It has to be good by 2 to 3 years because it was that good for Jaden Daniels in year 1 and 2. It was that good for Drake May. It's been that good for Bo Nix. Why wouldn't it be good for us here in Raider Nation if it's been good for Bo Nix, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels? We have Fernando Mendoza. Like it's got to be that good. It can't be average. This can't be 8 or 9 wins for 2 or 3 years. There's got to be a jump. We've been waiting a long time. We need a jump now. We need a jump from 3 wins to 12. Not this year, but in the next 2 years, we need that jump. Got to get it. We deserve it, especially if they get it right here. Can't wait 4 years to go to the playoffs. We're supposed to be in the playoffs here at Allegiant Stadium. When we hit the ground, Gruden had us in the playoffs year 1. It got taken away from him. Coach Bisaccia took us to the playoffs. And we haven't been as good since. That's wrong. It's got to get good quickly. This is not a long wait. Because if you're saying it's a long wait, I will pound back at you telling you why wasn't it a long wait for these other teams? Denver had to eat the Russell Wilson contract and go with Bo Nix. Why was it short for them? How did the Patriots turn it around with Drake May? What they really had to turn it around? It was going to be that difficult? No, they turned it around, went to the Super Bowl. The Washington Commanders haven't been good in a long time. They get Jaden Daniels, who is a similar player to Mendoza. Mendoza won a national championship and a Heisman. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. He didn't win a national championship. He's in the NFC championship game. There are no excuses built in this organization that they can't get deep into the playoffs in the next 2 to 3 years. It can't be 4. It can't be 5. It can't, because there's too many examples of teams that are doing it, and they're doing it more consistently and quicker. So if it's good enough for other teams to get to the playoffs in 2 years, why wouldn't it be good for an organization built on championships with the best stadium arguably out there, the best practice facility in the world, all the resources, and now building around good players? I have a funny feeling this year. Look, I don't predict games. I don't know what the record's going to be. It was really bad last year. And I think I'm being more transparent than I've ever been, that I didn't see last year coming, and neither did you. I mean, there were some people that said, man, this is not going to be good with Josh McDaniels. I get it. You didn't like Josh McDaniels. You liked Pete Carroll. You respected him. You didn't think the team would fall on their face led by Pete Carroll. No one did. Especially starting off 1-0 and beat New England. It did not look like it was going to go in that direction, and the wheels came off. Now the wheels are back on. And I think they got brand new players and really, really good players. So when you look at the players that they brought in, believe me, if they didn't get 7 new starters, if they didn't get Kwity Paye, Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, Teron Johnson, Jalen Naylor, Hayward at fullback, if they didn't go down the list and get all these players, I'd be like, wow, it's going to be another rough year. And then next year we're going to need another good draft and free agency. The fact that the team looks like they did very well in the draft and brought in free agents who still have a lot of tread on the tire means that this thing's got to turn around sooner than later. He's Big Al in San Francisco. Always good to hear from him.
JT, I agree with you 100%. There's no reason to say, well, in 2 years we're going to be ready. In 2015, this team was under Jack Del Rio's first year, and this team was, marginal. They were okay, and they were really bad before that under Dennis Allen, as we all know. No need to go back into it. But in 2016, with a team that had a much better offensive line than they did in 2015, like this team has a much better offensive line than it did last year. We do have a star running back on this team, or potential to be a star running back. Let's not anoint him so fast. And in the 2016 team, Latavius Murray was a very, very good running back, but not a great running back. And the backups, everybody, I remember, being at the games, nobody was really quite sure where they were going at running back. But then you ended up having Jalen Richard, you ended with DeAndre Washington, and you had Tywan Jones, and there were a couple other guys scattered in and out during the year. My point is that my biggest fear is that it has always been the running game. And the running game is only going to be as good as your offensive line. And if that offensive line can open up holes, and this is a better offensive line than it was last year, we're going to start to see some more production out of the number one back. And when we have to sub in whoever ends up being number 2 or number 3, whether it's Washington Jr. or I can't pronounce his name, but Labe, okay, combined with whatever they're able to do at wideout, if they're able to get that number one guy on the outside and not just Brock Bowers, who plays more of a slot receiver / tight end, this could be a pretty good offense. And they went ahead and they improved that defense.
Yeah.
So let's see what they can do. We have a first game on Thursday night. Let's see what happens on Thursday night. We're going to see the first team probably for the first quarter, maybe even into the first team line into the second quarter, I assume. And let's see what we have. But when people say, well, we got to give it 2 or 3 years, it's like the NFL doesn't allow you to give 2 or 3 years anymore. That hasn't happened since the Rams, who were awful, ended up winning a Super Bowl with Kurt Warner, who was a second-string quarterback packing groceries the year before. So the NFL doesn't allow that. There's no quarter. Get it? If we're improved, you win now. If you're not improved, find ways to improve so you can win now.
Excellent phone call, Big Al. Thank you. It's interesting you mentioned Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner stocking grocery shelves. He ends up going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, beating the Patriots. Now, they had Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt. They had good players there, but their defense was kind of no-name compared to it, and they turned it around quickly. But Clay, just the one thing I haven't said to anybody here, and we'll come back in a moment, the only thing that would disappoint me this year is if they got blown out in games. Last year they got blown out in Washington. Marcus Mariota blew them out. Last year, Daniel Jones was wearing a baseball cap in the fourth quarter, laughing from the other sideline. That's done. This team's got to be in it in the fourth quarter, down 21-17 with the ball, with an opportunity to win the game, not out of games with 11 minutes to go. I expect them to be in games that might flip, like the Broncos won every close game last year. I'm not saying the Raiders are going to beat Buffalo and the Rams and Seattle all back to back to back, but how about winning one of those games? Or 2 out of 4 because you had the ball late and you kick a field goal to win instead of losing by 13 points.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're getting throttled on the road, I don't want to see where the final scores are, they only ran 30 plays total. Right. Like, I can't see that happening this time around. It seems like there'll be more predicated effort to make sure the offense, when they have the ball, even in late games where they're not totally in it, double-digit leads could get erased.
Yeah, this coaching staff and the players they have could surprise some people, but normally you can't build an organization by hoping to surprise people. You got to be better than them. You got to punch them in the mouth. And we saw 2 guys get kind of kicked out of practice for being a little bit chippy. which is a good thing. Tomorrow night, I hope you come into Allegiant Stadium to see the open practice. $5 gets you in, and it goes to the Raiders Foundation.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by the DeCasta Verde Law Group. If you get injured in an accident, call 702-222-9999.
JT, thanks to Clay Baker for putting this show together today. Always good. Mike Florio, fantastic guest today, as we are brought to you by M-Ride, the preferred transportation partner to get you to Allegiant Stadium for games, concerts, events. They're fantastic. It's the way my wife gets to the game. Solve your game day parking chaos, because you don't want parking chaos. Go to mride.com. mride.com. Put in my code JT. You'll get the deal. It's that good of a deal. MRide, we love having them on back for another year of our proud partners. So I saw Levi Edwards said defensive line coach Travis Smith talked about Tonka Hemingway today, and high regards. He's been a camp standout. There's been a couple of camp standouts. As I look at the depth chart for the game coming up here, it's a couple of players that have played at a higher level than I think expected coming in. No doubt about it. Higher level than expected coming in. The first one would be wide receiver Malik Benson, number 19. I think he's had a really good camp. Devin Tompkins, I think, has played at a very high level. At the running back position, we talk about the star running backs. Roman Hemby has played well. I see the burst when he gets in on the outside. Trey Tucker, I think, has been really good. But the defense is where I've really been paying attention to, and I like what I'm seeing. The defensive backs are improved. Zeke Masses is legit so far. Darian Porter looked good today. Teron Johnson's been playing safety. He's been playing corner and safety. I like that. I think he can play. And then Traden Stukes today, I saw have a nice breakup. You know, everybody thought that Traden Stukes and Dalton Johnson, both coming over from Arizona, would have the opportunity to play together. Well, they got to earn a spot to play with the ones. They're rookies. They got to get on the field together. How they're going to do that. And Tremont McCoy will save his conversation for later. I'm sure Q's going to talk about it because he was asking questions. He spoke to the media today. Nice show today. Good day today. 3 hours tonight on Mad Dog Sports Radio. That'll be coming up at 8 p.m. Tomorrow, we'll be over at Allegiant Stadium for the open practice. I would recommend you taking as many people as you know. That would really help the Raider Foundation, and it would help some kids who are kicking off school. Give them a nice surprise. Take them to Allegiant Stadium to open practice. They'll really feel a part of the Raider family. Take it from me. See you back here tomorrow, everyone. Q's coming up next. Have a great day.